And now it is my pleasure to introduce our student body president, Chloe Soltis, who will introduce our graduation speaker. Chloe?
On Wednesday, I hiked to the top of Half Dome with the beautiful ladies that you see sitting behind me. And if I'm going to be honest with you, that accomplishment was one of the most challenging experiences of my life. It took courage, stamina, and unyielding determination to make it to the top. During my trek, I found myself reflecting back on all the mountains that I have climbed during my web experience. Each climb requires a good pair of shoes, water, and a poncho for the unexpected change in weather. These essentials are merely practical tools, but what is really necessary for the climb are the traits that I described above: courage, stamina, and unyielding determination, which cannot be purchased at REI, but rather only gained through the web experience. Our commencement speaker today, Alix Rosenthal, Vivian Webb class of 91, has chosen to climb many of life's challenging mountains, and she began that by earning her BA in the American Studies Honors Program at Northwestern University. There, she started a lifetime of public service and was elected to 3 offices, and she eventually became student body president. After graduating, she took a job with Senator Barbara Boxer on Capitol Hill, where Alix quickly learned that there's a glass ceiling for non-lawyers in government. She went back to school and earned her law degree from the University of Virginia School of Law. Alix then returned to the West Coast and made a home for herself in San Francisco, where she became involved in the San Francisco Elections Commission. She has run for political office 3 times, winning twice, and currently serves as vice chair of the San Francisco Democratic Party. Alix dedicates time to work as a trainer for the Emerge program, which recruits and trains women to run for political office. She somehow finds the time to run her own law practice and publish a voter guide every year for San Francisco and California voters, or elections. And if all that weren't enough, she is also a board member of Black Rock Arts Foundation, which is associated with the Burning Man Festival. I think that you will all agree with me that Alix is a perfect example of a woman who is never satisfied resting on her current accomplishments, but always looks to future challenges. It is with great pleasure that I welcome Alix Rosenthal as our commencement speaker this morning.
Thank you, Chloe. It's really great to be back home. Greetings to the class of 2013, and greetings to your parents and loved ones, and to my own parents, who they chose to seat 6 feet away from me in the front row. Thank you. Congratulations to all of you for making it to this moment, to the graduates for surviving 4 years of a rigorous Vivian Webb education, and of course for surviving Half Dome. To the parents and grandparents, you've been working very hard for this moment for at least 18 years, or for approximately 18 years, getting your daughter to the point where she's ready to spread her wings. This is a big deal, and I'm very honored to be celebrating it with you all today. I'd also like to acknowledge that despite my spellbinding oratory abilities, the graduates probably aren't hearing a single word that I'm saying right now. I don't remember a thing about my own graduation speech 22 years ago. But to the graduates, I just want to say, if you want to tune me out, that's totally cool. I am posting my speech to Facebook right now. Okay. So Chloe's introduction made me sound like quite an accomplished person. And now that you've heard about the successes in my life, I'd like to focus on the failures. That's right, you're going to hear about the bad decisions I've made and some of the things that just didn't work out. Right about now, Mr. Stockdale wishes he'd reviewed my speech before I got up here today. So my political career began here at Vivian Webb on my very first day of school when I decided to run for freshman class president. I learned the very basics of running for office when I was here, getting to know the voters, my classmates, and the issues that matter to them, and doing everything I could to convince my class that I was the best person for the job. As Chloe mentioned, I was elected to various leadership roles in school. Here at Webb, I was elected to various officerships, including the honor cabinet, and then I was involved in student government for 4 years in college, culminating in the student body presidency. And after I went to law school, I moved to San Francisco, where I've run for political office 3 times, winning twice. Last year, I gave a talk to both Vivian Webb and Webb titled, "What It Takes to Run for Political Office." I'm sure the graduating class remembers every word of my presentation, but for the benefit of the families in the audience, I'm going to review. I'll summarize now. Here's everything you need to do to get elected to public office. Get involved in your community for several years. Pick an office to run for. Learn the issues that matter in your race. Study the competition closely. Take a personal inventory of your own assets and flaws. File the legal paperwork to get your name on the ballot. Open a campaign bank account. Call every single person you've ever met in your life and ask them for money. That's the hardest part right there. At least it was for me. Announce your candidacy. Put up a website, a blog, a Twitter account, and a Facebook page. Find and hire really good staff. Attend every community meeting and give speeches at every opportunity. Hold fundraisers and house parties. Make promises that you're pretty sure you can keep. Get the endorsements of newspapers, organizations, and elected officials. Convince all of your friends and family to volunteer for your campaign. Debate your opponent. Put up lawn signs and send mailers. Respond quickly when you get attacked. Shake every hand and kiss every baby that you can get your hands on. And do it all better and faster than your opponent. That's all, nothing more. Easy, right? Well, I didn't know all of this when I first decided to run for the Board of Supervisors in San Francisco, which is the equivalent of the City Council. In 2006, I had lived in San Francisco for only 7 years, and I decided to run against a very popular and well-funded incumbent. I had won almost every race I had ever run in school. How hard could it be? How hard could it be? Running against an incumbent is an uphill battle. Most political experts will tell you, number one, you better start your campaign 2 years before the election. Number two, your opponent should have some kind of weakness or scandal that you can capitalize on. And number three, you need to have name recognition and a lot of money. Of course, I didn't have any of these things. I started my campaign only 6 months before the election. My opponent was well-liked and scandal-free. I didn't have any money or fundraising experience, and while I had previously chaired the city's elections commission, I was a relative unknown. Before I got in the race, my opponent had the endorsement of every single elected official in town and a huge war chest. He was very close to then Mayor Gavin Newsom and former Mayor Willie Brown, names you probably recognize. He knew the district inside and out, and he also seemed to know every single person that he ran into on the street. He knew which potholes needed to be filled, which playgrounds needed an upgrade, which bus lines were overcrowded. I didn't know any of this. And to top it all off, the district included the Castro, which is perhaps the biggest gay and lesbian neighborhood in America. No straight person had ever been elected to represent this district since Harvey Milk was elected in 1977. My opponent was gay, and I am straight, and I was toast. You can see where I'm going with this. I was called stupid, naive, arrogant, overly ambitious. The newspapers dug around in my past and found things that they could exploit. Really, really bad pictures of me were posted on the internet. One journalist wrote that because I had been to Burning Man several times, that must mean that I've done a lot of drugs and I wasn't a serious person. The president of the Board of Supervisors even bet me that I would not even get 30% of the vote. In that race, I said the wrong things to reporters. I yelled at my staff for things that weren't their fault. I spent more money than I had raised. I stopped exercising and didn't take care of myself physically or mentally. I gained so much weight in that campaign that I actually had to buy a whole new wardrobe. Politician costumes are expensive. But I also worked harder than I ever have in my life. I met thousands of voters. I raised enough money to be a serious contender. I had 100 volunteers making calls, stuffing envelopes, and knocking on doors. I earned the support of some key organizations in town, and I got a little bit of good press. And I killed it in the debates. And I lost really badly. How badly? I got 29% of the vote. That's right, I not only lost the race, I lost the bet. But I learned an immense amount about running a campaign, about how to talk to the media, about how not to run a campaign, how not to talk to the media. Just as important, I learned a lot about myself as a candidate and as a leader. I introduced myself in a big way to the political world in San Francisco. I got 9,109 votes, thank you very much, which is more than several other winning candidates got in other races in town because their districts were much smaller. The next time I ran, I would have name recognition and a fundraising base. The next time I ran for office, I won. After the election, the same people who called me stupid, naive, and arrogant called me up to congratulate me on a race well run. Attorney General Kamala Harris had supported my opponent, but she called me the day after the election to tell me that I did better than anyone expected. Political organizations asked me to join their boards of directors after the race. News outlets started calling me for comment every time they were covering an issue that I had campaigned on. So yeah, I lost, but it was also the best thing that I ever did. I worked really hard, I showed them what I was made of, and I beat everyone's expectations, including my own. And I kept my chin up. And because I did, doors opened for me. Some of the world's greatest innovators and leaders also started as failures. Walt Disney was fired from a newspaper because he lacked imagination and had no original ideas. Abraham Lincoln had 2 businesses that failed, and nobody remembers that he was defeated in 8 elections. Vera Wang failed to make the US Olympic figure skating team. Then she became an editor at Vogue and was passed over for the editor-in-chief position. Steven Spielberg was rejected from film school 3 times before becoming one of the world's most acclaimed directors. Even Oprah Winfrey. She had a number of career setbacks, including being fired from her job as a television reporter because she was unfit for TV. We all know how that worked out. These folks took big risks, and sometimes they failed. But the secret to their success was learning from these life experiences. Mistakes are the way we learn. They're how we grow. Failure is a valuable tool if you give it your best, you learn as much as you can, you move on quickly. If you do these things, opportunities will open for you that you didn't even know existed. And here's what not to do, by the way. Don't dwell on your mistake as if it's some kind of judgment on your character. Don't blame others for decisions that you were responsible for. Go deep and be honest with yourself about why you missed the mark this time. In my campaign for supervisor, I learned to handle losing with grace. I learned that I was terrible at raising money. So I volunteered to fundraise for other local candidates so that I could practice making calls. I got involved in powerful local organizations so that I could understand their issues better the next time that I ran. And I also learned not to refer to myself as a freak when talking to reporters. Yeah, I really did that. The article was titled, "Alix Rosenthal is a freak of a candidate." If you Google me now, it's still one of the top things that you see about me 7 years later. It's so horrible. That's another thing, permanency of the internet. I'm sure your parents are talking to you about this. Okay. But enough about me. What does this mean for the class of 2013? It means that you shouldn't be afraid to sit in the front row of class and raise your hand. That question that you worry might sound stupid, ask it. You're a really smart person, and chances are good that other folks in your class also don't know the answer. Take that class that's outside of your major even if you're not sure you'll get a good grade. Try a new sport or a new activity. Unless that activity is binge drinking at fraternity parties, that is not a path to success. I would avoid that part. Go after a leadership position. It will prepare you for all kinds of career opportunities in the future. And if you fall, ask yourself, what did I learn from the experience? What have I accomplished while trying? Dust yourself off and ask, what's next? And by the way, this has nothing to do with my speech, but if you're going to send risque photos of yourself to anybody, use Snapchat and not email. I'm just saying. Your 40-year-old self will thank you later. Parents will explain that later. Really, I'm not kidding. That goes to you guys, too. Okay. My point is this. The sweetest victory is the one that is the most difficult to achieve. The one where you took the most risk, the one that required you to work the hardest without knowing until it's over whether all your hard work will pay off. And hey, life is messy. You will screw up, and that's okay. The real beauty is in how you handle your mistakes. Hopefully you will handle them with grace, introspection, creativity, and resolve. So this is my wish for you, graduates. Fail big. Fail often. Push yourself. Be fearless. Your future successes depend on it. Congratulations.